Chapter 1, The Shepherd's Care. In a quiet village surrounded by rolling hills, there lived a shepherd named Eli. Every morning, he would lead his flock of 100 sheep to the green pastures, carefully counting each one as they followed. The villagers admired Eli for his dedication, for he treated every sheep as if it were the most precious in the world. One morning, as the sun rose over the hills, Eli noticed one sheep missing. Panic stirred in his heart, not because he would lose the value of the flock, but because he knew that the lost sheep could face danger alone. Without hesitation, he left the 99 safe sheep in the meadow and ventured into the dense forest to search for the one that had wandered off. As he walked through the thicket, he called out gently, "Little one, where are you?" The forest seemed vast and dark, yet Eli did not falter. He remembered that every soul mattered, and one lost was one too many. Finally, after hours of searching, he spotted a small, frightened sheep tangled in a bush. Relief filled Eli's heart as he carefully freed it. Lifting the sheep onto his shoulders, he whispered softly, "You are safe now." Returning to the flock, Eli's joy was immeasurable. He knew that every effort to bring back the lost one was worth it. The villagers, seeing him carry the sheep, understood the shepherd's love and care, a love that left none behind. And so the story began, teaching a timeless lesson. No one is insignificant, and every life is precious in the eyes of the shepherd. Chapter 2, The Value of the One. After returning home, Eli placed the rescued sheep gently among the rest of the flock. The animal no longer trembled, it recognized the shepherd's voice and remained close to him. That night, as Eli sat by the fire, he reflected on what had happened. He knew that many would question his decision to leave the 99 for the sake of one. Yet in his heart there was no doubt. The next day, some villagers approached Eli and asked, "Why would you risk so much for a single sheep?" Eli listened patiently before responding. "Because," he said calmly, "to the shepherd, the one who is lost matters just as much as those who are safe." He explained that a flock is not defined by its number, but by the care given to each member. A sheep that wanders away is not rebellious, only vulnerable. Without guidance, it may fall into danger without even realizing it. The shepherd's role is not only to lead but to seek, protect, and restore. As the days passed, the once lost sheep began to walk confidently again, staying near Eli's side. The villagers noticed a change, not only in the sheep but in themselves. They began to understand that compassion is not measured by convenience, and love is proven through action. The lesson became clear. True care does not abandon the weak, and true love does not count the cost. In the eyes of the shepherd, every soul has immeasurable worth, and none are ever forgotten. Chapter 3, The Call to Return. One afternoon, as the wind moved gently across the hills, Eli watched his flock grazing in silence. He noticed how the sheep responded to his presence, not with fear but with trust. They had learned his voice, and that voice guided them back whenever they strayed too far. Eli often reflected on how easily one could lose the path. The hills were wide, the grass inviting, and distractions were many. A sheep could wander without intention, believing it was still safe, unaware that distance itself was a form of danger. That evening, Eli spoke to a group of travelers resting near the village. He shared his understanding of the flock and said, "The call to return is always gentle. It does not force, it invites. Those who listen will find their way back even from far away." The travelers listened closely, recognizing the truth in his words. They understood that returning was not about shame but about safety. The shepherd's call was not meant to condemn but to guide. As night fell, Eli lifted his staff and led the flock back to shelter. Every sheep followed, drawn by familiarity and care. None were driven by fear, all were guided by trust. And so the lesson deepened. The path home is always open, and the shepherd's voice is always calling, patient, steady, and full of mercy. Chapter 4, The Safety of the Fold. As the seasons began to change, Eli prepared a secure fold for his flock. Stone by stone, he strengthened the enclosure, knowing that protection was as important as guidance. The sheep rested peacefully inside, sheltered from the cold wind and unseen dangers of the night. Some villagers watched and asked why such effort was necessary when the flock seemed calm and obedient. Eli answered, "Peace is preserved through care. Safety is not assumed, it is provided." His words lingered in their minds as they observed the quiet order of the fold. During the night, distant sounds echoed across the hills. Predators roamed beyond the walls, yet none could reach the sheep. Eli remained awake, standing at the entrance, his presence a final barrier between danger and those entrusted to him. By morning the flock emerged unharmed. The villagers began to understand that true security does not come from isolation, but from being gathered together under watchful care. Freedom without protection leads to loss, but protection offered in love brings peace. The lesson was clear. Within the fold there is rest, under the shepherd's watch there is safety. Those who remain close are not confined, they are preserved. Chapter 5. The Cost of Love. One morning Eli discovered fresh marks near the hills, signs that danger had passed close during the night. Though the flock remained safe, he knew that protection always carried a cost. Vigilance required sacrifice and love demanded readiness. As he walked among the sheep, Eli examined each one carefully. His hands bore the marks of labor, and his eyes reflected long nights without rest. Yet there was no resentment in him, only purpose. To the shepherd, the well-being of the flock was worth every effort. Later that day, a young villager asked Eli, "Does it not trouble you to give so much?" Eli paused before answering. "Love that avoids cost is not love," he said quietly. To guard what matters means to stand between danger and the vulnerable. The villagers began to see that true care is not passive. It acts, it waits, and it endures. The shepherd's role was not chosen for comfort, but for commitment. Each step taken for the flock was a step taken in faith. And so the lesson grew deeper. Love is proven not by words, but by willingness to sacrifice. Where love is real, cost is accepted, and protection is freely given. Chapter 6. The Shepherd's Patience. Time passed, and the flock continued to grow accustomed to the steady presence of Eli. Not every day brought danger, yet not every day was easy. Some sheep still wandered farther than they should, testing the boundaries of safety. Eli never responded with anger. When a sheep strayed, he followed with patience, not force. He understood that learning requires time and trust is built through consistency. Each return was met with calm reassurance rather than rebuke. The villagers observed this and asked why he did not discipline the flock more harshly. Eli replied, "Fear may control for a moment, but patience transforms the heart." His words challenged what many believed about authority and strength. Slowly, the sheep learned the rhythm of the shepherd's guidance. They recognized that his patience was not weakness, but steadfast care. Through repetition and grace, the flock became more attentive and united. The lesson was clear. Lasting change is born from patience. Guidance offered with mercy leads not only to obedience, but to trust. And where trust is found, growth follows. Chapter 7. The Joy of Restoration. One day, a sheep that had often wandered finally began to remain close to the flock. Its steps were steady, its gaze calm. Eli noticed the change and felt quiet joy, knowing that restoration is one of the greatest rewards of faithful care. The villagers too began to see that patience and guidance had borne fruit. What was once lost or uncertain was now secure. Eli reminded them that restoration is not a moment, but a process, one that requires time, trust, and perseverance. That evening, Eli gathered the flock and allowed them to rest longer than usual. There was no urgency, only peace. He understood that moments of restoration deserved recognition, not pressure. As night settled over the hills, Eli reflected on the journey of the flock. Every return strengthened the whole. When one was restored, all benefited. The lesson became evident. True joy is found not in perfection, but in renewal. When what was lost is restored, there is reason to rejoice, not only for the one, but for all. Chapter 8. The Watchful Night. One night, a heavy silence settled over the hills. The sky was dark, and the stars were hidden behind thick clouds. Eli sensed that the night would demand more than rest. He remained alert, listening closely as the flock slept within the fold. Hours passed and distant sounds echoed beyond the enclosure. Though danger never reached the sheep, Eli did not abandon his watch. His presence alone was enough to keep fear away. The flock slept peacefully, unaware of how close uncertainty had come. By morning, the villagers learned of the restless night. Eli spoke little of it, for true vigilance seeks no recognition. Protection, when faithful, is often unseen and uncelebrated. The flock emerged safely as the sun rose. Calm replaced tension and life continued as before. Yet something had changed. Those who understood began to see that safety is sustained not by chance, but by watchful care. The lesson was quiet but profound. Even in darkness, the shepherd does not sleep. When others rest, love remains awake. Chapter 9. The Unity of the Flock. As the days grew brighter, the flock moved as one. Where once there had been distance and hesitation, now there was harmony. The sheep followed the shepherd's path together, responding to his voice with confidence. Eli observed how unity brought strength. No sheep walked alone and none were left behind. Each movement was shaped by awareness of the others, creating a quiet order that required no force. The villagers took note of this change. Eli explained, "When each one is valued, unity follows naturally. Care given to the individual strengthens the whole." His words revealed that unity is not enforced, it is cultivated. The flock now reflected the shepherd's care, calm, attentive, and connected. What once required constant correction now flowed with ease. The lesson was evident: true unity is born from shared trust. When guidance is consistent and love is present, many become one without losing their worth. Chapter 11, None are lost. At dawn the hills were quiet. The flock stood together, complete and at rest. Eli counted them once more, not out of doubt but out of devotion. Every sheep was present. The villagers gathered for one final time, having witnessed the shepherd's care through every season. They no longer questioned his choices. They had seen that not one life was overlooked, not one moment of vigilance wasted. Eli spoke softly, yet his words carried lasting weight. "Those entrusted to my care are never forgotten. Even when they wander, they are sought. Even when they fall, they are lifted." The flock moved forward as the sun rose, guided by a voice they knew and trusted. There was no fear of loss, for the shepherd's commitment was unbroken. And so the lesson was fulfilled: none are insignificant, none are beyond return, and none are ever truly lost. Under the shepherd's care, every soul has a place and every journey leads home.